Ladies and gentlemen, it has always been a necessity for the United States of America to function as the guardians of peace and stability against the menace of communism worldwide, in our mission to preserve freedom and liberty, not only here in the United States, but around the world. After World War II, the Soviet Union began to spread communism across Eastern Europe. We had an American ambassador, his name was George F. Kennan, who warned of the Soviet communist leaders' hatred and hostility towards the United States of America. He stated that if not addressed sooner rather than later, the national security of the United States and of the free world would be in jeopardy. Well, the American politicians back then were not listening very closely. They weren't paying attention to his urgency. Well, the ambassador warned and warned and warned, and pretty much nothing was done. And there was the beginning of the Cold War, because at that time, it was Stalin who made it very clear to the people of the free world, and especially to the United States of America, that war with America would be inevitable. And that was the birth of the Cold War, a war that brought us the communist ideology of the invisible and powerful Iron Curtain, which enslaved millions and millions of people by their governments. And it all began by the communist governments regulating what? Regulating what, ladies and gentlemen? It began by these communist powers, these communist leaders, and these powerful communist governments regulating what people heard, what they saw, what they said, and what they read. Today, in my view, history is repeating itself. But it's not repeating itself in Eastern Europe, but it's repeating itself right across the northern border of the United States of America, in Canada. The Canadian people have always been a good partner, a good neighbor, and a loyal ally to the United States of America. They sacrificed their blood, their sweat, and their tears, standing shoulder to shoulder with this nation of ours here, called America, standing shoulder to shoulder with us in peace as well as in war. But unfortunately, their government, under the dictatorship of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, has embraced extremely dangerous policies that mirror the Communist Party leaders worldwide, especially policies that mirror those policies of the Chinese Communist Party. The most recent policy Trudeau is seeking to invoke on the Canadian people is a direct assault on the freedom and liberty that we here in the United States of America cherish and has always defended and always protected. And that freedom is freedom of speech. The Canadian Parliament has a bill. That bill is called C-11. Well, that bill effectively builds an invisible electronic curtain, something like the Iron Curtain of the 21st century, which has the same power of the 20th century Communist Party Iron Curtain, putting an end to the individual rights of Canadian citizens to view, to listen to, or read anything without the approval of the Canadian government. If such a government policy is not the birth of a communist regime and of an electronic curtain which can become a threat to the United States of America, yes, a threat to our national security, then what is? What is, folks? Although only a few of our leaders here in America have addressed this issue with Trudeau and his supporters in Parliament, be assured of this, that many, many more of our elected officials will be speaking up very, very soon. We will not tolerate here in the United States a country just across our northern border turning into a communist outpost, a communist regime, a country that has policies that are not of the people, by the people, and for the people, but have policies that are of the government, by the government, and for the government. That to those of us in America, ladies and gentlemen, is enslavement by the government. The United States of government is going to be dramatically changed in November of this year. People like Trudeau don't like to hear that, but you better let it sink in there, Mr. Trudeau. It's going to become a reality. This government is going to turn from one that has been ruled by a friend of yours named Joe Biden, and it's going to turn right around. We here in the United States are fighting right now against communist policies, against policies that are seeking to take our freedom away. And Joe Biden has lost in just about every single court case, from local to federal levels to the United States Supreme Court. with regard to his violation of our constitutional rights. Well, that is coming your way. And now, what we're going to do here between now and November of 2022, that's right, of this year, Justin Trudeau and others like him need to know that there is a very powerful and influential movement here in America that is watching our northern border very closely. Yes, we're watching what's going on in Ukraine. We're watching what's going on in other countries around the world. We're watching the collapse of governments from people who are fed up with communist ideology. We're watching it all. But that's not going to distract us from watching what is on our border, because Canada happens to be closest to our heart, not only closest to our country. So know this, that we in America, I know, will do everything we can within the framework, Mr. Trudeau, of our laws. Our laws differ from your laws. Our laws allow the people, we the people, to speak up and to speak out against those ideologies in which our government leaders are presenting to us. Our laws, not your laws, enable our people to protest without the fear of police coming and beating them, or the police coming and threatening them, or police bullying them. Yeah, we've got our problems. We've got our difficulties. I'm not saying here in America that we're perfect, but we do have a constitution that we fight for, that we live for, that we breed for, and that we shed blood for. And we have a constitution that our leaders know enough to understand that they can only go so far. And they have only gone so far because we, the people, have spoken up and worked within the framework of our law, a framework that'll ensure us that our constitutional rights will always be protected. We're going to work within the framework of our government, within the framework of our laws, within the framework of our Constitution, and most importantly, we're going to work together, hand in hand, in partnership with our elected officials, because it is through them that there are going to be changes with regard to a lot of foreign policy, and we're going to do the best we could that we begin with Canada. We're going to ensure that the safety of our country here in the United States and the freedom that we cherish and the freedom that the Canadian people cherish will last for decades to come. That's nothing new to the United States. We have always protected, always defended people and nations all over this planet from communism. Well, we're not going to stop now. In fact, we're probably going to rev it up a few notches, because what we intend to do is to make sure that our leaders understand exactly what's going on in Canada. And like that ambassador I talked about earlier warned the elected officials back during World War II, we're going to sound the alarm and we're going to warn our officials day in and day out. Our elected officials are going to hear from us at noontime, early in the morning, late at night, day in and day out, month after month after month. They are going to hear from us about what you, Justin Trudeau, are not only doing to the citizens of Canada, but the risk that you're taking, the risk that you're putting us in, as well as people throughout the free world in, by embracing the ideology of Stalin, Marx, and Lenin. There's no other way to define that. That is exactly what you're doing. And if you think the American people are represented by Joe Biden, look at his poll numbers. I mean, yours are pretty low, but his are so low, you probably can't even see them anymore. The American people love their freedom and their liberty, and nothing is going to take that away. And you can be sure that we're going to make sure that any country that surrounds us, that borders us, is going to enjoy the same freedoms and the same liberties that we do. Because if they don't, and if the communists, and in this case, the communist Chinese, take a foothold on your soil in Canada, Mr. Trudeau, that is serious, serious business. That is serious, serious business for the United States of America to get involved with. Now, for those supporters watching of Justin Trudeau, for those in the parliament who support Justin Trudeau, and those who are alleging, I get the emails, I get all of the letters alleging and claiming that we in the United States, and particularly me, are interfering with your internal affairs and foreign policy. Well, we're not interfering with your internal affairs and foreign policy. It is you who are interfering with our foreign affairs and foreign policy. It is you who is placing this nation, the United States of America, in my view, in jeopardy, our national security, as well as those in the free world. Remember what I said. We're working within the framework of our laws. We're working within the framework of our Constitution. We're working through our elected officials. That's how things should be done, peacefully and lawfully. And that's what Justin Trudeau, your leader, those of you who are watching, and those in Parliament who are watching who support him, you just can't stand that. I know you can't stand that, because there's going to be no uprising. There's going to be no revolutions. There's going to be no violence in order to take over a government. That doesn't solve any problems. But what solves problems is working within the framework of the laws, the Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and every other foundational law that each and every freedom-loving country was given by their founders, by the signatories of the documents that keep us free. That's why the people in Canada are winning. Believe me, you are winning. You're not getting in the press what we're getting. You're not getting the news that we're getting. You're not getting the poll numbers about your leader that we're getting. But you in Canada are winning. And across the world, there are countries that are now bringing their people together to fight for freedom and justice within the framework of their laws. And they are winning. Look what happened in Italy. Prime Minister gone. Look what happened in Great Britain. Boris Johnson gone. Let's add to the list. The list is going to be long and it's going to be effective. And thank goodness, peacefully, within the framework of the laws of the people, these individuals like Trudeau, Biden, and others are either going to be forced to resign, or within the framework of their constitutions, they're going to have to pack their bags and leave their palaces. It has always happened that way. Always. They're not going to last long. And those of you in the Canadian Parliament who side with this dictator, those of you in other parliaments around the world who side with dictators, just remember this. If you are not a born blood communist, you are not and will never be a member of the Communist Party. Communists will come to your country. They will influence your people. And there will be some sort of uprising that the communists always like to instigate. They'll cause all sorts of trouble. They'll get policies passed. They'll get programs passed. They'll tell you to seize the money of the little guy, seize the money of the middle guy. Go after those and arrest those who protest. How dare they protest against your government? They'll do all that. And you as cowardly leaders will follow them. And then when all that dust is settled, they're coming after you. If you think that communism stops at your doorstep, well, you better look at history. You better look at history. Because from Justin Trudeau and leaders like him, members of Parliament in Canada and congressional representatives here in the United States who are siding with communist policies, believe me, you think President Xi in communist China, because that's who we're dealing with at this point, you think he's going to stop at the doorstep where you live because you say, well, look, I'm a member of Parliament who has supported Mr. Xi, your policies, or I'm a member of the United States Congress who has supported your policies. They're coming for you. They always come for you. They just use you. They use you, they chew you up, and they spit you out. That's how communism works. That's how it works. The powerful, the elite, the money grabbers of this world, well, you know what? They come and they go. They've come from every generation and they go. Somebody else gets their treasury and they continue to start trouble and they go. But as I've said all along, throughout the history of free people in a free country, throughout history, their flags still stand. Free leaders still stand. Freedom still stands. Liberty still stands. Every generation have had to fight this fight, folks. We know that. A little shaky today because of what we see and what we hear. But remember this, please keep this in mind. What we see and what we hear in certain free countries like Canada and others are not the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Because a lot of it's being filtered. Here in the United States, folks, Joe Biden attempted to set up some sort of ministry of truth, some sort of cabinet post where the government will let the people know what they should know, what they should hear, and then basically what they should say. In other words, Joe Biden and his government here wanted to make sure that the people of the United States were controlled, that their videos were controlled, that their internet was controlled, that the press, for goodness sakes, was controlled. It lasted 48, maybe 72 hours. That's right. because the people of this country, again, within the framework of the law, we were ready to throw every single person out of the United States Congress and people who were elected to local, state, county, and federal government offices. They knew it. They felt the wrath. They felt the heat of the American people. And if those of you in Canada don't believe that the leaders of your country, every single one of them, are not feeling not only your wrath and not only your heat, but they're beginning to feel the wrath and heat, and the heat is going to get hotter from freedom people around the world. There are people in the European Union, you know that, who are fighting for you in Canada, who are fighting for those of us in the United States, who are fighting for free people around the world. That's right, the European Union. You don't get much of that, but we're getting a lot of it. And you're going to hear more and more and more European leaders who lived through Hitler, who lived through Stalin, who lived through Marx, who lived through Lenin. And they're warning those of us in America not to live through any leader, whether it be Joe Biden or any other ugly tyrant who raises their head in the future, or Justin Trudeau and any other ugly tyrant in Canada who raises their ugly head in the name of communism. They're telling us, because they lived through it, now is the time. Now is the time to work together within the framework of the law, lawfully and peacefully, and do what must be done in order to remove these people from office. And what must be done? You make sure that you go to the polls if you have free elections. You go to the polls. You work together as communities to get candidates who will run for office, who will live by your laws, live by your constitutions, live by your Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's how it's done. Remember this, folks. A king is a king only if the people recognize him as a king. A queen is a queen only if the people recognize him as a queen. And it goes for presidents and prime ministers. The only people right now who are recognizing Joe Biden as president of the United States is about 30% of the people in this country. That's the polls right now. Trudeau is around maybe 40%, maybe 20%, very low. And your country's not going to let you hear that. You think President Xi is loved in China? He's hated. Probably 99% of the people in that country hate him. The only people who love him are those who are benefiting by him. And by the way, let's talk about the people who love the Bidens, the Trudeaus, the President Xi's, and others. You remind me of the people who love a guy named Brezhnev, Lenin, and every other Soviet leader that came along. Now, they love you as government leaders only because you give them something: money, power, contracts, whatever it is. If you didn't have that, they don't love you. So basically, you have a collar around their necks and a chain, but they also have a collar around your neck as a leader, because money is power, and they have the money that gives you the power, and you have the power that gives them the money. Correct? Correct. So you guys are like tugging at each other, you're choking each other to death. While all this is going on, and you have to look over your shoulders, the people of the grassroots America, you know, the moms, the dads, the fathers, the mothers, grandma, grandpa, all of us who work hard for all that we have today and fight for our freedom and liberty, as well as those in Canada who work hard, fighting for freedom and liberty, who cherish their nation, who love their nation. We don't have to worry about you. You're going to choke each other to death. You're going to choke your ideology to death. But what we're going to do while you're busy doing that, we're going to be working within the very laws that our founding fathers and our founding mothers and those people who fought and died in the past for our freedom and liberty, we're going to be working within the framework of those laws. And we're just going to simply come in and take control of our governments. Again, and I emphasize, within the, I know you hate these words, but you're going to have to hear them because they're true, within the framework of our laws. Why do I repeat that all the time? Well, you got a bunch of leaders out there so scared to death, if you call them leaders, that they like to go out and, you know, chop up these videos and say, well, you know, Lieutenant Rogers or so-and-so said they're going to take our country. They're going to invade our country. I've seen it all. We're going to invade. I get emails, I get letters, I get calls. Well, we're going to invade Canada. Yeah, oh, Lieutenant Rogers is getting a bunch of Americans and they're going to invade Canada. I mean, these people are out of their minds. Out of their minds. What are we going to invade you with? What in the world? I'll tell you what we'll invade you with: your Canadian flags, and we'll hand them out to you. All right? That's what we'll invade you. How about if we invade you with freedom, with liberty? How about that? You see, folks, They get so worried, they get so scared that they begin to do what? Very seriously now, they begin to introduce laws, legislation, and policies like C-11, like our Ministry of Truth, which was destroyed by the people within 72 hours. That idea went right into the trash can with the other communist policies that this government here wanted to introduce to us. C-11, what is it? Basically, for the Americans watching, it is regulating free speech. It is regulating, government regulation, what people could see, what they could hear, what they could read. If the government doesn't like it, they censor it. See this broadcast? They'll censor it. They'll censor it. We won't get into Canada via the internet. They want to place a tax or some sort of financial requirement on Facebook and on the social media networks. If programs like this are approved, well, we wouldn't be approved, but they would approve other programs that curry favor with Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government. If you really want to see how it works, maybe if you go on and Google or go on the internet and research how Communist China conducts their broadcast, perfect example. That's what Trudeau wants to do, my fellow Americans. What do you think of that? On our northern border? What do you think of a country whose leader is actually thinking of doing that, regulating what comes in to his country and what goes out? Now, he could talk to me till he's blue in the face that is not the case. It is the case. You know, they underestimate, or in fact, they insult our intelligence, don't they? But that is the case. So there's the danger on the northern border. Now, who else thinks this is a danger, folks? Well, let's talk about a top U.S. diplomat, all right? And that top U.S. diplomat named Catherine Tai. Now, she's the U.S. trade representative. All right, so Catherine decides that she's going to have a meeting with the Minister of International Trade over there in Canada, all right? And her name is Mary Nedge, N-G. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Mary Nedge. Now, it says here, Ambassador Tai expressed concern about Canada's proposed digital service tax and pending legislation in the Canadian Parliament that could impact digital streaming services from here to Canada, from Canada and back. Now, there's a guy named Michael Jess. He is at the University of Ottawa Internet. Well, I should say, according to the University of Ottawa Internet and e-commerce law professor, Michael Jess, he said that Bill C-11 could trigger, not could, I'm going to correct him right now, but will trigger retaliatory tariffs from the United States since digital products are included in the Canada, United States, Mexico agreement. I want to take it a step further. Michael Jess is right. It'll trigger. In fact, Trudeau's going to trigger probably some sort of worldwide retaliatory tariffs on his country. But I want to take it a step further, folks. And one of the reasons why I'm on tonight, because we won't be on Thursday night, so I ask that you share this with your friends and neighbors in your countries, especially in Canada. And of course, we're doing this here in the United States. I want to take this a step further. I believe truly that Justin Trudeau is he's just too close to communist China, too close. And I truly believe in my heart that our national security here in the United States is in danger. And what we have to do is begin to take action. So here's the action that I want to propose to the United States Congress, and we're going to do it in November. All right, when the Republicans take control, I believe we should prepare at least. We should prepare to take retaliatory action in many heavy tariffs and sanctions against the Trudeau government. I believe that we should sanction all of the people in the Parliament who have backed Trudeau, who have supported his policies, that we believe are detrimental to freedom and liberty, not only in Canada, but here in the United States. I believe that we should definitely single Trudeau out and present sanctions against him. Sanctions against him. Why do I say that? Well, they're legal, they're lawfully, they're peacefully, and they work. They work against who? They won't hurt the people, but they will hurt the millionaires, the billionaires, and those rich individuals who support him. The individuals in the Parliament who kept very quiet when this crazy idea of taking and freezing people's personal bank accounts, of doing things we don't see only accomplished in communist countries. You see, to me, you did that to the people in Canada. Well, what would happen if we in the United States did that to you? We froze your accounts. We had sanctions against you. And we decided to take action. Now, why can't we do that? Just explain to me why we can't do that, because we in America could do what we want, so long as it's within the framework of the law, and so long as our leaders are in agreement with what we're asking for. In the United States of America, this is for the Canadian Parliament out there. We really, talk about we, millions of Americans petition our congressmen day in and day out, year in and year out. And they listen to us. We're not always successful, but when it comes to freedom and liberty and a threat against this country, by golly, they listen to us. This is why we have in America a great, great, great record of making sure that freedom and liberty worldwide is protected. Now, we've got problems. I am not going to say we don't. The violence here is horrible. I mean, horrible. What's going on here is terrible. That was brought to us by who? Think about this. By who? The very people who support the communist policies of Joe Biden. This was brought to us as a result of government trying to control the lives of people. Look at the gun control issue. Oh, you hear it all the time. The guns are killing people. People kill people. We believe in the right to bear arms. We believe in reasonable rules and guidelines. We believe in all that. You don't hear that on the news much. Just the other day, a man walked into a mall here in America. He began to start shooting people, and a legally lawful armed American citizen shot and killed that gunman and stopped a massive shooting. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of those things that happen within a 1 to 2 year period. But you see, Joe Biden and the communists here just want to disarm everybody. But you disarm the good guys, you know what happens? The bad guys have the guns. You want proof? Tell you what, I'll give you proof. Chicago, the most strictest gun control laws in the country, has the highest crime rate of gun violence. How do you figure that? How do you figure that? You figure that because the good guys don't have the guns and the bad guys have the guns. New York City, have it right here, 12 shot over the weekend. Another 24 wounded by knives and other people getting mugged and assaulted. Why? Because the good guys have no way of protecting them and the bad guys have the guns. New York City, strict gun control. Now, you go to other states where people have the lawful right to bear arms, like I just shared with you regarding that mall, and I think it was in Ohio. Could be wrong. I think it was there. The crime rate's low. Now, why would that be, folks? Why would that be if in states where bad guys know that the good guys certainly have the ability to defend themselves, why would the crime rate be low there and not in other places? Because bad guys are smart. Bad guys are smart. They know exactly who the dumb leaders are. They know that Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, and others who will set up the hue and cry of that issue, gun control in America, they know that they're going down a dark, dark alley. My point is this. When the good guys stand up and fight, we win. We always win. Come November of 2022, and I can't wait for that date to come, this country is going to turn around. But we will not, and I base this on the history of this great country, the United States, we will not and never turn our back on Canada. So here's what we're doing. We're getting all this information together with regard to the laws regarding C-11, the dangers regarding C-11, not only to the Canadian people, but to our own country. We're going to be looking at that. We've already got information, which is out there in public. There's no secret information here about the seizing of bank accounts, the hunting down of people who were at protest and left lawfully. We got it all together, folks. And we're putting it all together. And like we did with the 50 United States state legislatures, we're going to put an executive summary together. And all of these state legislatures are going to get that. And our United States congressional representatives. And we're going to ask them to take action. and let's see where it goes. I believe they're going to do something about it. Or I wouldn't be spending all this time working on this, because believe me, it's just not me coming on the air talking about this, but talking face to face, and in many cases, in an office or in a room with our elected representatives, or at least some of them who work for them. Yeah, freedom and liberty is something we cherish here, and we're going to fight and fight and fight until we win. Just remember what I said earlier, and then I'll close up with this, folks. Remember what I said earlier at the opening of my statement. It has always been a necessity. Remember I said that? It has always been a necessity for the United States to function as guardians of peace and stability against the menace of communism worldwide in our mission to preserve freedom and liberty here in the United States and other nations. That is our history. That is our legacy. That is what we've always done, folks. Fight for freedom and liberty worldwide because it was a necessity, not only for the people of those countries, but for the United States national security. So I believe it is now becoming a necessity for the United States of America to act against the menace of communism rapidly growing in Canada. There is a biblical scripture, and I'll close with this. Without vision, the people perish. We, the people of the United States of America, in partnership with freedom-loving people around the world, especially in partnership with the people in Canada, we have a vision. We have a vision of long-lasting freedom and liberty for many, many years to come. And because we have that vision, we the people who fight for freedom and liberty, we the people will not perish, and neither will our freedom and liberty. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me tonight. We'll see you, not this Thursday night. We'll be away on the road fighting for freedom and liberty, but we'll be back next Monday night for the America edition of the, I just forgot the name of the program, folks, for the American edition of the Patriot Desk. And Thursday night, a week from next Thursday, or this Thursday coming, the 21st, I think it's the 28th, we'll be back on the air. Now, one more thing before we go. I'd like you again to consider helping us out. We are growing. We're on 6 platforms. We're growing. We got all kinds of new equipment in here. I hope the lighting's better. But the word's getting out. We're sending stuff out to our elected officials. We're not just talking about it. We're putting our faith to work, and we're taking action. So I'm going to ask you all if you would consider helping us out. You go to campaignforamerica.com. It's right down there on that red banner. And if you could send a donation, we would appreciate it, because it does get costly. We're going to do our job as much as we could, but the help of those of you who have contributed, I can't begin to tell you what you enabled us to do. I mean, I've got to tell you, it would be remarkable. And one day we'll put a book together. We'll put something together of all the work that's been accomplished here because of your contributions. And there are people who actually sent $2 in. And you know what? The widows might. So that's okay. And there are many who sent in as much as they could within the framework of their budget. But I will say this to you: pay your bills first, take care of your family first. Family first. Remember that? Just take care of yourselves first. Then if you got some loose change in your pocket, and I mean it, maybe you could consider sending some to us so we can continue this fight. That's it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you a week from this coming Thursday here on the Patriot Desk. And please, there you go, campaignforamerica.com. God bless all of you. Let freedom ring. And remember, folks, we're not going anywhere. They're going away, not us. We're going to be around forever, and we're going to be around, and we're going to let freedom ring forever. Thank you. Have a great evening. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.